Negative beliefs come from programming. They come from a place where we were vulnerable at one point. When we are children, we have a hyper-learning mode where we are learning to survive by osmosis. Those first few ages, up to 5 or 6 or so, we are learning in this overdrive mode where everything we see, everything we experience, everything we hear, we adopt as a reality. And that teaches us about who we are, supposedly. It teaches us about what we can believe about the world, whether it's a safe place or a dangerous place or a place of possibilities. These are all beliefs conditioned in us early on when we're teenagers. Again, now it's a new kind of susceptibility or vulnerability as we're around peers, people that we want to connect with and belong to and maybe even impress. We take in that input, whether it's positive or negative, and depending on that basis from childhood, if we feel like the world is a safe place, we're more likely to be able to brush off negative comments as a teenager and believe the good more easily. But if we kind of have a basis where the world isn't so safe, then we are going to be more inclined to believe the negative things that are said about us or the negative ways that we are treated and feel like we deserved it. When we're adults, the conditioning continues, but it's not quite as easy. It takes more of an intense experience, a traumatic experience or a heightened emotional experience, but we can still be conditioned. We can still be treated poorly and choose to believe that or not. And each age group builds on itself. And so if we have negative beliefs from childhood added to by negative beliefs as a teenager, it's nearly impossible to resist or push off the negative experiences as an adult. And so we're more inclined to adopt them, believe them, and reinforce those negative beliefs that we have grown up with. Like I said, it's almost impossible to change them. It is possible, though. You need to be conscious of it. You need to be aware, like as we've talked about, these stories that we tell ourselves. This is a way to consciously shift and start reprogramming that computer processor inside of us that carries with it all this information and interprets life from that programming. All of these experiences and conditioning create the processor to function in a certain way as it responds to the world. These interpretations that it provides can be positive or negative. And as we gain an understanding of this, we can recognize the reaction to go negative and choose to go positive. We can choose to shift that belief. We can choose to tell ourselves different things. Bruce Lipton is a great scientist of our day, and he talks about 4 ways to shift these beliefs. One way is repetition. Many of us are familiar with this. We do it in school with our learning. We experience repetition when we go to religious events or meetings. We hear this repetition because we know it's an effective method of learning. Another method is hypnosis. And this is where we have a practitioner of some sort, or we learn techniques on our own to go directly into the subconscious and shift those beliefs with hypnosis. Another way is through traumatic experiences. On a small scale, it's where your big brother comes and surprises you around a corner if you have the hiccups. It's some kind of shock to your system. Often it's worse than that. But a traumatic experience of some sort can definitely shift those subconscious beliefs. It's harder to control the outcome of that, right? The best way there is to shift our beliefs in our subconscious and shift that programming and those interpretations that come through the processing in our minds is through what are called super learning techniques. And I go into these in some of my other videos and in my other programs. But this is where you dive in deeply and you communicate directly with your subconscious and you pluck out those negative beliefs and you can replace them. And I believe that you pluck them out and you're naturally going to rise to the occasion. You will naturally fill in with positive beliefs. Our nature is inherently good. And so as we pluck out negative thoughts and negative beliefs, our natural divine being will lift us and fill in those vacancies with positive beliefs. But you can reinforce them with those other techniques, with the repetition. People use mantras. Those are great. Or affirmations, where people are consciously choosing different ways of thinking. This is very important. But you can't leave out the subconscious factor. If you just do the repetition, it will take a very long time. If you add in some super learning techniques, it will amplify that and dramatically shorten the time that you have to wait to see results.